Hi, Year 11. Just a short revision video on inequality in Sao Paulo. So, we're going to start this video by looking at a more wealthy area in Sao Paulo. And we're going to look first of all at an inner city area called Jardim Paulista. Now, slightly different than in a developed country, the model of a city for a less developed country, we would expect to see the highest cost land closer to the center of the city and therefore the highest quality housing closest to the center of the city. So you can see here Jardim Paulista as an inner city area. That is where we're likely to see housing for the rich. And what we will see is these people will tend to live in quite exclusive apartment blocks close to the CBD, or perhaps in new high class developments of detached housing, complete with their own security systems, security guards, and perhaps recreational facilities as well, which may be further away from the centre of the city. Now, housing for the poor is slightly different. We'll come on to that in a moment. But if we just think about what is the quality of life like in this inner city, more wealthy area, well, if we think about transport within this area, in Jardim Paulista, many residents will be able to use helicopters to minimize the impact of traffic problems. And they do have very high salaries within this area on average. And what that means with regards to their health is that well, they're able to eat a very healthy diet as they're able to afford a range of foods. And that contributes to their high life expectancy of 79 years old in Jardim Paulista. Now, education within this area is also very strong. The schools in the area are very, very high quality, and this region of Sao Paulo has one of the highest HDI scores of 0.850. Now, quite a lot of the jobs within this sector of Jardim Paulista are concentrated in tertiary industries, for example, banking. Now, these jobs are really well paid and they have excellent career prospects. What this will feed into as well is that idea of having very good schools. That means that we're going to see students which are coming out of those schools very well educated with the skills that they need to be employed within the tertiary sector. But the jobs within this region are also close to the CBD, and that makes it a very attractive place for international companies to invest and locate within this region, which will increase the number of jobs within that tertiary sector. Now, the crime rate within this region is relatively low. That could be attributed to the fact that there are more formal jobs available here and there is less poverty within this region of the city. And it could also be attributed to the fact that there is an increasing wealth, and that means that people are able to employ their own security, which reduces the likelihood of crime. But it is quite a different story if we were to now look at a region of the city in Sao Paulo with a lower quality of life. And a really good example of a contrasting area of Sao Paulo is Marsilac. Now, Marsilac is an area which is further out from the CBD in Sao Paulo. And it is an example of a squatter settlement or what we might call a favela. Now, that means that the housing is informal. So residents that have constructed this type of housing, they don't own the land that they have built on. And that means that at any point their homes could be deconstructed by local government, and they don't have any rights to stop that because they have built on illegal land. If we think now, though, about how the quality of life in Marsilac differs to Jardim Paulista, which we have just considered, well, in terms of transport, that's where we'll start. So, Marsilac is actually 60 kilometers from the center of Sao Paulo. It's a 3 hour journey by bus, so quite a long way and very difficult for those people that are looking to get jobs in the CBD. In comparison to the life expectancy in Jardim Paulista of 79 years old, here in Marsilac it's only 55 years old. So that's a 24 year gap between the two regions. And that really does highlight inequality between these two regions, particularly with regards to healthcare. Now, it could be linked to their diet. It could also be linked to a lack of healthcare facilities within this region in comparison to Jardim Paulista. Now, the HDI score for Marsilac is significantly lower than Jardim Paulista. The HDI score is 0.701, which is considerably lower when we're thinking about HDI. And then if we were to think about employment, 11% of people within this region were unemployed in 2012. So that's quite a high figure for unemployment. Now, some people in this region will actually work in informal jobs where they perhaps are street sellers or where they are not paying taxes. Now, that is a way for them to earn money. However, it is a challenge because without taxes being paid, it doesn't allow an awful lot of money for the local government to be able to invest in improving infrastructure, providing higher quality housing for the residents of this region. Now, some of the social problems that we see in Marsilac are linked to teenage pregnancies and births of children to teenage mothers, because 1 in 4 births in Marsilac is to a teenage mother. And the area is extremely overcrowded with 8,400 residents. Now, I'm going to link that back to healthcare because if we're thinking about 1 in 4 births to teenage mothers and the fact that the area is overcrowded, the population is growing quite quickly. What that does suggest is that there is perhaps limited healthcare, quite a limited education on family planning, and perhaps limited access to contraceptives within this region. So that does also tie into that idea where healthcare is lower, that's supported by the life expectancy being lower and a higher birth rate, particularly to teenage mothers. Now, the fact that lots of the mothers are of kind of teen age, that does suggest that the education quality is lower, and that would be because those mothers won't be in school. And that might be because they don't have access to education within this region, quite the same that they would in Jardim Paulista, closer to the CBD, a more wealthy part of the city. So, some of those facts do really highlight that there's quite significant inequality in Sao Paulo, particularly between housing, education, and healthcare. But equally, we can see that with the housing, that really does tie into income as well. So, there is quite a significant disparity between these two areas. And some of those facts, those figures around both of these regions, Jardim Paulista and Marsilac, will be really useful when we come to look at possible 8-mark questions, which we might see in exams.